All right, so hey everyone, hey Marsha, welcome. Thanks for
Hi.
joining again today, guys. Yeah, so um, I think Reggie, you're the only one who commented on the community with the topic, so we
Right.
could start with that a little bit, and then we can sort of build on that. I think your question was more along the lines of Polycam, but maybe point clouds in general, and using that with Revit, or was there something specific that
Well,
you were
so
thinking of?
again, after the disappointment of finding out my previous phone did not have LiDAR on it, nor my iPad for that
Mm-hmm.
matter, I went out, got the new phone, all that business, and
Mm-hmm.
got everything up and running. I guess my biggest thing is trying to figure out, to zero in on the settings for Polycam to, basically get the best of whatever the heck I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm still fiddling with it, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I haven't even gotten over to recap yet. That too has been, for whatever reason, not easy to install on my system.
Mm-hmm.
So the farthest I've gotten is to be able to use my phone and take some scans. But what I'm looking at on the phone, I see there's these, slider settings for, uh, you know, I assume it has to deal with resolution of the
Mm-hmm.
points it's taking itself. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I spent a little time looking around on Polycam's site
Mm-hmm.
and got the gist of it, but it doesn't really. I guess having not done this before, it didn't really speak to me in terms of, okay, what do I need to do to get something decent from the get go? Like, I
Yeah.
spend hours on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and I figured I'd ask the
Well,
man that.
yeah, yeah. I've done all the testing for you. I mean, I've done a lot of it, yes. I guess as far as just using the app itself, I for the most part, I would leave if you're using lidar. I would leave the settings for the most part as is. For the processing, for example, um, taking the actual scan, that's just taking the scan. That's something you'll get used to over time. Once you see the results, how fast should you go? How fast can you turn? What's the path that works kind of for you? And
Gotcha.
then, how much do you scan in one single scan is another piece of it, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, that's to me right now. It's kind of very project specific, and I
Gotcha.
mean, I can show you a couple examples of just sort of my some of my work in progress stuff where I'm trying to sort of figure out um, the same the same things that you are to some
Okay.
extent. Um,
How do we
just
know if it works with our phone?
what phone do you have?
S21, 22.
um, so it,
So,
the
Paul, you have
photogrammetry mode.
Android?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't work on Android.
I
It's
don't
on
think
the Play
Android
Store.
because you can
Is
use
it?
the photogrammetry part of
Ah,
it.
Hmm.
So with Polycam, you can use the lidar. There's two types of scans. There's lidar and there's photo scans. Photo
Okay.
scans use photogrammetry, and they actually do a pretty good job um, as far as creating objects. The downfall is they don't it's less accurate than lidar, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not to scale. So
Mm-hmm.
by scale, I mean the relative scale of the world. So a perfect example is down here. Um, let's see.
What's the point cloud? Because I
yeah.
Does it
got
work? Does
What's
it
that?
work with iPhone 12
Yes.
Yes, I have an iPhone
mini?
12 Plus. I
Mini?
think.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Let me see. I don't remember which iPhone I have now. Let me see.
Yeah, they said it works with the 12 and the 13 to get the
Yeah.
the
LiDAR because
the
that's
actual
LiDAR
the
is
actual
installed in
right
the phone.
the actual app will work with pretty much any phone that has a camera at this point in time.
mm,
But the lidar scanning part of it will only work with an iPhone or iPad that has lidar capabilities, which I think was 12 and above, or maybe 11 plus and above. I don't remember exactly where it
mm.
started.
12.
12.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because I had an 11 and I couldn't
there we
do
go.
it,
There.
so I had to buy a 13.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
That's where I.
So a good example, and this is sort of the tutorial that I'm starting to put together now. The series of this actually no, this isn't it. The kitchen is, but This house here, for example, when it comes to um, a full building scan, like of the entire building from the exterior, the
Mhm.
LiDAR scan may not be the best way to do it because it's not going to reach beyond a certain distance. It's going to take up a ton of space, and it may do some weird things when it stitches together. And so what I did here is I scanned the house. This is using the photo mode, which anyone can use regardless of LiDAR or not. I sort of did this as the photo mode, so I walked around the house, and it basically takes pictures as you walk, and it's pretty straightforward on the app. But then the actual work for this project is happening on this garage, and so then I went back and I did LiDAR scans of the garage and the interiors of that garage, so that those were to scale. They were highly detailed, and I fixated them on one specific location. If I can find them.
Those exterior shots, when you shoot the roof, is that you're not on a pole or anything with that? You're just
Just standing back a
doing
little
a
bit.
side elevation.
You can see it. I don't know where my album went. It's gone. There we go. All these scans are gone on here for some reason. They're all on my phone, but because it's the older version. So no, I'm just standing, walking around the house. You can see the roof,
Okay.
from in the pictures that the scan is creating. So then, but then when it comes to sort of like once you get inside, for most part, almost all the interiors of a building you'll be able to do with the LiDAR scanner. And then it's just a matter of, well, do I do all the rooms at once? Do I try to do all the rooms at once? Like how much do I scan? And that there's going to be a ton of factors that play into that. And so, for example, this is the kitchen that I'm working on, and I did a whole room scan, right, which was
Right.
just the one room, which was the kitchen, and then I went back and I did individual wall scans just to
Okay.
get higher detail. But you'll see this is actually an example of why messing with those settings for the processing may not be your best bet. So I
Okay.
tried tweaking the processing settings on this one, and you see what it did. It did all these weird explosion things, as opposed to like when I don't do it. This was a clean process. And the reason I did that is just to get a higher resolution of each wall. And then I also did, I did the individual rooms separately. And then as long as you have something to relate to, so notice I walked around this corner. Now when I'm
Mhm.
pulling the scans together in Revit or Recap, wherever I want to do it, I have something to reference on this side to that side. So you could even get crazy like the surveyors do, and you could even like tape, little targets on the walls and something like that. Whatever makes sense. But I personally have tried both ways with multiple rooms in one scan and multiple rooms as separate scans, and I've always had more luck with multiple rooms as separate scans. But it depends on the complexity and the size of everything. So then it's just a matter of stitching it together in Revit or Recap and then pulling it in. But as far as the process itself, honestly, you'll see once you start messing around with it, it's really just trial and error. You'll start to feel, the difference between this and a lidar station or something like that is you're using your hand and you're going like this, right? You think about a lidar station sitting there, it's spinning 1,000 times, the laser scanning doing its thing.
Right.
Here so you are the tripod, right? So you got to start getting used to, well, how fast and slow can I go? If I go like this, if I go like that, and over time as you're doing scans, that's the stuff that you'll get used to. But
Yeah, I even went out and invested when I bought my phone. I just went and bought one of those
Mhm.
little handheld gimbal deals
Mhm.
to kind of see because there's I can't remember the gentleman's name, but in fooling around with all of this, this he's gone and tested it for like doing exterior survey work.
Mhm.
You're probably familiar with him, but he's testing it against all the heavy duty equipment and saying how much accuracy he's getting and all that kind of business. But he's doing the whole mix of doing it with a gimbal, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it's a game changer if I could get it to sort
Yeah.
it out. But
The
you know.
gimbal's not a bad idea. I don't know how much it matters for the lidar. I'm sure it matters a little bit, but for the photo mode, it definitely will matter. Being a smooth gimbal sort of photos being taken there. For the lidar, I mean, you can see it working and doing the math, and doing it while it's happening. I don't know
Right.
if shaking it, I mean, maybe shaking it rapidly like this would screw it up, but I don't know if, if you were going like this a little bit, if it would mess it up too much, but
Yeah, he put it towards the notion of, well, he went around his house.
Mhm.
So when he got to the other part of it, the accuracy was off. There was a shift.
right.
So I guess doing it by hand and doing it with a gimbal, it
So,
minimizes
right.
that error, I guess you could say.
And so that's exactly, and it's the same thing with regular laser scanning. It's deciding how much to scan in one scan is a big deal, right? And like you just said, going around and closing a loop is probably the biggest issue, even when it's room to room. Is this isn't surveying. It's not. There's no benchmark to return to. The machine isn't looking for a benchmark when it enters the next room, so it's
Right.
doing math to correlate those things, and that's when you start seeing if you walked around the house, your corners don't align. That's because
Right.
it's been doing all the math and it's shifting to align to the project. So in order for that to work the smoothest, yeah, you're right. Having it on a tripod at a fixed height and smoothly
Mhm.
transitioning, but then again, you're going around the outside of a building, so it could go like this and up and down, and that'll screw it up anyway. So even for that, what I was trying to show you with the garage is I did the photo to get. That's more of think of that more of as a reference capture,
Yeah.
because you can bring it in and scale it to match the point clouds. But then I took lidar scans of the facades that I needed, and just
Mhm.
the areas that I needed, and then I can put those in. And then you can use the reference, this photo, as kind of like your giant key plan to align these scans if you want, and
Gotcha.
then the scans align to themselves. And so you're just getting more and more references to help yourself align things. The
Gotcha.
photo also helps for me when I do the photo scan of the entire outside. It helps on the inside when you're trying to align scans to see the windows, and you can look at those, and it starts playing. It starts building the project for you. So definitely a reference, but I don't think unless you're doing a ton of exterior work on the house, a quick photo scan is enough for reference. And then I would still go back and do lidar scans of the areas that we know we're working on, because again, those are going to be the most accurate
Right.
to
Yeah, I
scale
was just
and
looking
so
at it from the standpoint of capturing differences in elevation from, like, say, sidewalk up steps and a sloping
hmm
walk to,
yep,
getting from grade to
right.
interior of the house.
And so that garage is a perfect example where the house has been added on like 30 times over it's a generational house. It's been in the family forever, and the guys built like 1,000 different things on the edges. And I actually didn't go in and do the typical count the stairs, hit the ceiling height, to figure out all those stupid split levels and drops, the 2-step areas
Right.
and 3-step areas. But having the scans of the 3 or 4 different places, and then having the exterior where the windows are, it was really simple to put the scans in, align the height with the windowsill inside outside,
Gotcha.
and then on all the floors, and then quickly it created the picture for me of that split level slice and dice of the house. And so when you think about that, just think about how you build it in Revit, and you use the scans to that advantage. For that, I scanned a room that I wasn't even working on just for the sake of that reference. I did a quick scan in their kitchen, just for the sake of those references to connect all the dots. And that's something that would have, that takes takes a while when you're doing the old school way of existing conditions sometimes to figure out, especially when you have like 4 different first floors, with all the split levels and slices and dices and 2 steps up and down. It can take a while to figure out like where the actual second floor height is in relative to the area you're sitting on. And so that was, to me, that was a huge game changer. It
That
made
was
my
a
life
lot.
so much easier on that one.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So
I'll
bottom
show you,
line is just
I'll show you guys
let the
real
app
quick.
do the work and
Yeah, you'll see over time. I mean, I'm only probably 4 or 5 real projects, and then probably like 3 or 4 play projects in messing with this.
okay.
And over time, I'm learning more and more of how the actual scan process with my hand can get better, and that's something that's gonna be kind of hard to teach, I think. But I think the tips. The other thing I've been doing a lot is actually testing out the this is a Google Map rip, which if you guys saw the tutorial I did right on using Google Map and then using Recap Photo, on Polycam now, when you have an account, you can actually just upload 250 photos, at maximum 250, and it creates photogrammetry for you. So I'm doing site stuff, but you could do like drone footage, you could do like just picture footage if you don't even have the app. And it's
Right.
been doing a pretty good job. These are Google Map rips using the same process, and it's been doing a pretty good job recreating them. Again, the downfall is it's a photogrammetry, so similar to even when we do them in what's it called, um, recap, it's not, it comes into a random scale. So like, see that building is 1 foot long. Well, it's actually 100. It's actually 143 feet long. So you can actually scale them now in Polycam, which is pretty cool. Or you can scale them in Recap after the fact, but or in Revit if you're using point cloud from it. But the problem with the photogrammetry and coming in at this scale to me is that even if you scale it up, you actually aren't getting a higher density point cloud from it.
Right.
Which means when you bring it into Revit, it's not as high of high density of point cloud. When you start zooming in too far, it's going to disappear. With Revit, when you're using point clouds, you want those points to be as close as possible.
How are you getting that from Google? You
So-
just taking a bunch of images, or is there like something you download?
It's a process. It's there's actually like 3 different ways I'm doing it now. I've been testing a bunch of different ways, but I'll post a link to the workflow I have. But the long story short of it is it's just recording myself flying around like I'm in a drone, using any video editor that can export sequences. I use Premiere, but anything that can export images, like 5 frames per second or something like that, and then uploading those into Polycam.
Interesting.
So I can, I'll post. I think. Let me see if I have. I did a long tutorial on it back in like August or something of last year. I don't remember if I posted it in here.
Mind is blown again. Okay.
What's that?
I said that's something that blows my mind again, because a lot of times I get these quick and dirty jobs where folks want to do a site to play around
you know
on
what?
or something like that.
Yep.
And they want to see all the buildings, and I'm like, I really don't feel like building a super site model in Revit.
Yeah.
That was
We do a lot of it, and so the nice thing is when we use the drones, we already have like those softwares create the meshes for us. But when we don't, we have Google Maps, and I've been trying a process that using a program called Render Docs with Blender that actually doesn't even do it, just extracts the 3D data. I just haven't gotten it to work yet. There's a bunch of videos on it, but I've tried their methods like 4 times and I can't get it to work. And so yeah, I'll post links to that because that I'm sure it's interesting. The other thing I just want to show you guys what, because it's funny we're talking about Polycam. I was doing this earlier while I was eating lunch. Is this is the new used boat I got last year or the end of last year, and I'm planning carpet for it, and I use my Polycam scan to throw it into Revit, and I'm sort of figuring out how much carpet and what I'm going to do with the carpet for it. So there's another use of Polycam for you. But you notice how the point cloud, right? And this is this is LiDAR, and I'm pretty close to the object. This is only a 15.5-foot boat, so it's not very big. But you could see the point clouds start decimating, right? And so when you bring in objects, and actually I could probably bring in one from Polycam just to show you what I mean with the whole scaling issue. Because you can bring in meshes to Revit, but you can't really see the texture for the mesh, so it's not super useful. For somewhat you can, but it's not. So point cloud becomes the way to really see it. And the problem when you start scaling large stuff is, let me pull up those ones I was messing with. Verizon. You can see I've got new highest recap photo. I've got like 17 different tests of this thing because I was just trying some different stuff. So if I bring in this one, come on. So as you can see, actually this one's not too bad, but when I'm out here, right, it looks pretty good. This is a point cloud. If I pin this so we don't highlight it. But once you start zooming in, that's what happens, right? And so when it comes to sort of using as reference, so for this we're doing some crack replacements, which are cooling stuff for this data center. I was going to use this as a reference, just as sort of a background image with the model stuff around it. And the problem is, even at this, which is pretty high definition for the size of this site from Google, once you start getting into here, if you want to use the actual point cloud as it starts decimating. And that's why, the density of the point clouds is huge. And by scaling up something that was only 1 foot to 143 feet, you're you're like taking a JPEG and scaling it up. Eventually, it looks like shit, right? That's just that's just the way it is. So that's when it comes to this Google Map thing, that's
So that's a point cloud made from images from Google Maps.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll post links. I have a completely detailed tutorial that I'll send a link for you. And I talked about it before I made the tutorial. I talked about it in an office hour as well, which I can post the link from office hour 22. So that was, I think I was making the tutorial or something, or I was at least making the workflow at that point in time. But yeah, I can show you just quickly what they look like. This is what this is what the images look like. They're just images exported from the video, which is me just spinning around like I'm a drone, basically. Right.
So you made the video on your computer with Premiere.
Yep.
Just spinning the camera around.
Yep. Pretending I'm a drone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll send links to that though. That's
just some more stuff.
And I'm honestly, it's a convoluted workflow because you have to, again, think about the steps that's taken there. And so I'm really trying to get this other workflow to work, which is actually ripping the information from Google Chrome, and then you already have a mesh ready to go. It skips the whole video part. It just takes snapshots of it. But I just haven't gotten it to work yet to the way that some other YouTubers show it working for other industries. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. So is that helpful little discussion on Polycam there?
Yeah, I mean, that will set me off in the right direction. I mean, like I said, the only place where I'm held up right now is just, so I'm going from Polycam, excuse me, to the cloud, basically dropping my thing in Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever.
Yep.
And then I want to get that into, there it is. The file format for when you process it out of Polycam.
If you want it to go into Revit, your pretty much only option is a point cloud, which is PTS.
Okay.
Right. And then once you have a PTS, you can't load a PTS into Revit, so you have to open it in Recap and just basically save it, because
all right. Okay.
I don't understand why Revit can't just take point clouds in, but
well, that's my.
Well, I mean, I understand why. I know why, but it's nuts.
I get Recap up and running.
Yeah, they want you to use Recap. So
whatever reason, that's a whole nother.
Yep. So for Revit, that's what you want to do. You want to use point clouds, and then you have to open them in Recap. Basically, you're just opening them, which is in import, and then you're just saving, and then you're bringing in that RCP file to Revit.
Okay. Fair enough.
Hey,
I'll
Jeff,
post the whole process for you. There. What's
if you
up,
go
Chris?
back to your boat,
Yeah.
so
sure.
you actually have the confidence that you're getting exact enough measurements that you can cut carpet from that. You're not going to just measure it yourself, because I find the Polycams are not that super accurate.
So I'm probably not going to cut from this. This is more for sizing and stuff. I mean, I'll cut in place because again, you get the decimation. So
because I find sometimes it's not really lining up perfectly.
And really, when you find the lineup issues, it's usually those registering to each other pieces, right? It's turning corners and whatever, and how it's
or
turning around when it's out of scene. So,
the edges might be, and I do crank up the processing, because I found in the first ones I did, when I pulled them into Revit, they didn't look like the one you're showing now. They didn't have that depth of of color and differentiation from things, and so I found it actually not very easy to read them well enough to feel I was accurately getting my things in. But once I started doing that, I don't get that kind of weird sort of bubbling on the wall surface kind of stuff too much. Cranking it up, I've been able to really get much better scans out of it.
Yeah, so I shouldn't say I don't tweak. So when it comes to the LiDAR, usually the parts that I tweak are the the depth range I'll maximize, and then I'll turn the simplification down. The simplification is the part that gets screwy sometimes depending on how your scan is. And that's the part that you're seeing on mine where it's doing those weird
Yes.
faces. It's trying to simplify something that doesn't need to be simplified because it's a flat surface, that whole thing. So, I think that's where simplification can help a little bit, because if you take it off too much, it's going to do this, even though we know it's a flat surface. You know what I mean? Because that's where
Yeah.
the math is kind of coming into play. So yeah, and again, that's why it's hard. It's something where you gotta scan and sort of get used to it, and then use them. And then from there, sort of, that's how you start feeling. So no, I'm not gonna cut the carpet from this. I'll have the boat there in place, but with this, I'm trying to get a sense of the size. I was also looking at other options for these panels to see, what it would need and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah. Makes sense.
but it gives it gives you an idea of what size and so on. But yeah, so it's gonna be something that as you get into it, you'll see. And what I usually process the scans while I'm there. That's a good thing, because you can actually take the scans and wait to process them later. But I usually process them while I'm there, because it only takes 3 to 4 minutes if you crank it up. But you can check, otherwise it's very challenging you have to go back for no other reason. But yeah, I'll post all those details for the process. And then I also even in the kitchen renovation I'm doing now, the first or second video of that is going to also be a similar process where I'll run through it a little bit, but the same process applies. And I think the tutorial video, is it still accessible? Is it accessible through the app? Let me see. Okay. So that's the basic process for Polycam. But then the Google Map one, I'll send that. I'm hoping to figure out the other version for you, which will be even easier. It'll require a couple extra programs to install, but they're all free, like Blender and stuff like that. But with that, you'll be able to basically just extract the 3D information from Google Maps, and then you won't have any loss of information. It'll look exactly as it does in Google Maps.
Free is good.
As long as you don't use it for whatever the end user license agreement is on Google Maps, but
I went out there and figured it out myself. Thank you.
I'm sure using it on a small edition for somebody in Connecticut won't be against it, but publishing
If
on
Turner
YouTube like I
Construction
did,
can use it, why not? Right?
no one has any idea that Turner Construction's using it. There's like 3 of us in here that are doing it. I'm sure if the legal team knew, they'd probably be pissed off, but whatever.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I try to explain it. They probably wouldn't understand what the hell I'm talking about, anyways. All right, so that was Polycam. What's on everyone's minds?
I have a materials question.
Sure.
Or brainstorm. I needed some help brainstorming it. Are you familiar with 3form
Yes.
material? I am trying to figure out how to create that material so it has some translucency to it when I take it into Enscape and render it that way.
So you're talking like the decorative glass type of stuff or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it needs transparency like glass, but I needed to be able to insert an image, and every time I put an image in there, like I can't have the image be transparent. And I did turn it into a PNG. Maybe that helped. And then I watched the Enscape the YouTube video from a few weeks back. And so I played a little bit with their frosted glass material from Enscape. And I found if I added a cutout, all of a sudden my image could be transparent. But like to make that cutout be the right pattern for every type of 3form. It's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, so I'll show you a couple ideas of how to approach this. Oops. It actually reminds me of I was pulling up a tutorial from a long time ago. Let me see when this was even dated. Share screen 2. There we go. 2012, 10 years ago. So the method I'm thinking of this was before Enscape even existed, is potentially this, which is what I was using for stained glass. And so we can test it even now just to see if the same process would work, but in my mind it's working, so we'll try it out. Let me just do a new project here. And actually, you know what I should do is I should download a Freeform. Decorative resin. Yeah, we used a lot of this crap at when I was doing schools. Lots of this crap.
Yeah, I have one client that's in love with it, so I need to be able to try out different patterns and stuff and custom gradients. And
I'm sure I'm not gonna be able to find an easy one.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of a weird website. You want the Varia, yeah.
I'm just finding something similar. Let's do this one.
Yeah, do like the Reedy one or something. Yeah.
All right, so let's grab this. I'm gonna toss this under my materials folder. It's called Thicket. Oops. Freeform Thicket. I actually probably have it somewhere in here. Right?
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, it looks like you have some right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the Hudson one was one of them I was playing with.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I'll save that there. All right, so let's do a storefront. Let's put a piece of furniture behind it just so we can look. Oh, shut up. I don't know why it's yelling at me. Okay. And let's put a floor. Okay. So here we go. So this is, and we're just going to go through it. This is how I would have done it in the past, and we're going to see if it still works. So there's a couple ways I think I've approached it in the past. One of them is this stained glass way, which, God, now I got to remember. Now I'm going to have to remember what the hell, which one I did. There's one where I've used frosted glass. I don't remember if this was it. Let's see. Oh yeah, wire. There we go. Oh boy, it's been a while. Okay, so for this one, and usually, honestly, when it comes to a lot of these custom materials, that's kind of where I start. Is I find something that is similar enough and then try and tweak it from there. I know the rules have changed a little bit with Enscape and the fact that they have their own material editor, the fact that Revit now has physically based materials, but the truth is all the old material stuff still works in Enscape, you know, so it's potential that you don't have to use the new material editor at all, and it still works and looks fine. So that's what we're going to try today. So I'm going to here we go.
Yeah, I think I did glass block because that one had image available where the standard glass doesn't.
Right. So this one I'm going to use the wired glass, which is the same idea. So this is wire, you know, safety glass, whatever it is. I'm going to replace this asset. And so here you could see the image. It's not a bump. It's not a cutout. It's just the image here is what creates it. And so if I replace this now, 1/2 inch, geez, it's small. What's happening? Come on. My file browser's slow. All right, so Freeform. Oh, look at all that Freeform, huh? Okay, so let's do Freeform. We're gonna say this. Oh, of course, it's not repetitive. Why would it be seamless? That's okay. We're gonna say that's maybe 6 inches by 6 inches. Sure. So we'll make it 6 inches by 6 inches. color. Let's see if it actually does anything. It's not showing anything in the Revit view, which is kind of interesting, but we'll see. So my only other thought after we test this out is using a frosted glass, which I believe uses a bump pattern too. I gotta remember when we pull it up. But I have had luck doing this in the past. This has definitely worked for me, including on 3form. So not seeing it here though, huh? Look at that.
It's pretty clear.
That looks like some clear glass, huh?
You couldn't get it that clear if you wanted it.
Yeah, I know. Let me check the image fade real quick just to see. All right, let me try one thing here. Let's look at what I did 10 years ago. Okay, I put it up there. Ah, that's what it was, the transparency. Uh-oh. I didn't pause Enscape, did I? Watch out, everyone. Uh-oh. So the transparency, I was using the map as a transparency map too, which could be where what'll help you get the look you're looking for. I just have to wait for Revit to not blow up on me, hopefully. Back? No. Come on, you can do it, Revit. I think I left Enscape live while I was tweaking with the material. I think that might have messed with it. Or just something worse is happening. While this is going, I don't know if you guys saw, but Revit 2023 was released. And one of the features that's interesting about the material editor is now you can right click and duplicate the material with the shared assets. So if you remember on my tutorials and even in the course, I think in BIM Can Be Sexy, I've stressed the idea of you duplicate the material here, then you have to duplicate the appearance asset over there to do the whole. Now you can actually right click and do it all in one click.
Nice.
Yeah, that's going to be nice.
Yeah. I don't know why I was ever two, but
yeah, when I was teaching rendering at the college, I was like, okay, duplicate and duplicate.
Double duplicate, man.
You're gonna overwrite yourself once or twice.
Yeah.
But
and it's easy once people start doing it to understand the concept, but trying to like teach that is very challenging for people who have no idea at all. If they're like learning it, it's very challenging. It's very, very hard to explain because it doesn't really make much sense when you explain it. All right, I'm gonna have to kill Revit, I think. What the hell's it doing? Or you know, it might be Zoom.
I missed that bit about overwriting.
When you create a new material in Revit, let's say you want to duplicate a material. Oh, it came back. I'll show you. You know what? I think it's Zoom. Zoom has been doing weird stuff for me when I screen share. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it sludges up the works.
Are you guys seeing Revit now?
Yes.
Okay, and it's moving?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Reggie, if I was to duplicate this, for example, this glass, right? Let's say I wanted to start with this, but create a new glass, and maybe this is the basic, but I'm going to change the render or something like that, whatever. Right? When you duplicate it, right, under appearance, if I go to information, right now the rendered material, or it's actually called an asset, the rendered asset is called wired, right? So glass has the rendered property called wire. That's the appearance property. Right, so glass is kind of like this bucket of information. It has graphics, it has the rendering appearance, it has a physical appearance, it has the physical information, the thermal information, right? So the reason they did it was they wanted you to be able to assign these different things to this bucket, but then take them and assign the same ones to a different bucket. I don't know. To me, there's just never an area where I want the same thing in both areas. It just doesn't. That's what I don't understand why. But anyways, so when you it must be materials. So when I duplicate this, right? So I call this one now glass new.
Right.
My rendered appearance is still wired. So if I went in here and changed this, said, all right, I have a new material, I'm going to change this to red, right? You know, your initial thought is I just changed glass new to red. But then you go back to glass, you're like, wait a minute, why is glass red? Because it's still wired. So in here, what you have to do is you duplicate the material here, and then you have to duplicate the asset up here. And then you'll see it says wired 2 or 1.
Yeah.
Now if I change
recall.
this to blue or purple, right? Now this one is still red because it's the original wired. That was the double duplicate. So now instead of doing duplicate, go in the appearance and duplicating it, you can actually right click and it says duplicate with shared assets. So it'll duplicate everything as a duplicate, not as like the 2023 that was just
23.
just launched today.
I have a question about that. So you duplicate, so you have wired 1 also.
Yep.
And say you do, I was doing this with laminates where I was like using a furniture laminate, and then I wanted to make another one be that asset. How do I go find wired 1 to apply it to different material?
So you would go instead of duplicate, you go replace. See right there, and then you search in here. Is it
wired and wired 1 going to be in there?
They should both be in here, yes. So if I search for wired, there you see it's right there.
Okay. Yeah.
So those see how
you know how it is when you're rendering.
Oh,
you make about 50 things and you lose track of what it's called and stuff.
Okay, so I just assigned this to the image for transparency, right?
Okay, and it's the same JPEG.
Yep, same JPEG. And then I'll leave it 100% for now, and then we could mess with it. But so I'm gonna apply
and you made them the same size and
yep,
stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Now if I go into Enscape, eventually. So yeah, there's a couple new things for 2023 that may be interesting, but nothing groundbreaking in my opinion. All right, so it's still invisible. That's weird. All right, let's take a look at this.
Under your transparency, you had 100%, maybe.
Yeah, that's what
yeah, and I was fine with mine. Like
actually,
right at 5 and 6, it would go from like I could see the image to it went black.
Yeah, it's where you have image fade. Maybe you don't want it to fade. You can have the transparency.
I think you want your transparency down a little bit.
Well, I'm actually thinking.
Yes.
I'm thinking it's an Enscape thing, honestly, because as you can see.
But wouldn't image fade it out completely if you say 100%, or is that
no? I think
not
it's the opposite. Right, 0 is no image. I think. I don't know, we can test that, but I'm actually thinking it may be something with the new update to materials in Enscape, because as you can see, we're getting it in here, right?
Is it maybe not showing in Revit? Because what are you in shaded?
Oh, I'm not trying to see it in Revit. I'm trying to see it in Enscape. But yeah, I could change it in Revit and you would see it. But notice how it's coming up here, right? It's happening here, right? But it's not happening in Enscape. So it actually leads me to believe it's something with how that transparency thing is transitioning to the new material garbage in Enscape, because oh, actually, you're starting to see a little bit.
Yeah, I guess it's like nice. It's like sparkly. There's a little bit.
It's coming in though, so that's feeling better about that. So let's see. Actually, here's a good one for you guys. Watch this. Oh shit, where'd it go? Enscape. So, where's my thing? Here's a little fun tip. So there's a program. I think I mentioned it in that post of what I learned new recently. So there's a program called Power Tools, the hell it is, something tools for Microsoft, Power Toys. And so one of the things is the mouse highlighter is nice. So like if I'm talking to you guys and I didn't even realize I was doing it, if I hold control or hit control twice, it does this, which is pretty cool. Right, so that's helpful for teaching. But it also has pinning windows on top. And so I just trying to remember the damn keyboard shortcut for it.
Ooh.
Is that a free thing or is that a?
It's free. Yep. What was it? Shit.
You can change those
Windows
too to make them easier.
Yeah. So notice I just hit Control or Windows Control T. So see how Enscape is has this weird thing around it. So Enscape is annoying because it flips to the back. But now I believe now it's staying to the front. See that? So it'll take whatever window you're doing and keep it in front. Super nice. So now I can go in here and I can say like, let's mess with this image fade a little more, or this transparency a little more. With Enscape, it's notorious for that because you're trying to do stuff in Revit, and unless you have another monitor, which I do, right, normally, but I'm talking to you guys, so I'm using one monitor, it's very hard because you have to click it, change it, pull Enscape back up. It's super obnoxious. And I don't know if I'm on... let's see if I'm on...
I was going to get Enscape.
There we go. We're getting there. What's that? I'm sorry. Who somebody said
I was going to get Enscape, but then I had to buy a new computer.
Well, now you're going to need some programs to have fun with Enscape or to run on that.
Did you buy a computer that could run Enscape? Because that's why I bought my new computer.
Well, the money is damn well better. Yeah, it should. It's like.
So there we go. We're getting there. So I think that's your. I think that's your approach to mess with that. Obviously.
All right.
Yeah,
material, I did not do the.
I don't even know if I need to do the
transparency.
image. I don't even know if I need to do the image up there. I'm gonna actually try right now. I'm gonna switch this with one of the colored 3 forms just for fun. But that was the trick that you need. There is the image, the transparency image. So it's basically a transparency map, is what you can think of it as.
Okay, and you have no cutout going.
No cutout. No. It's if you look, you can see the reflection. I don't have it turned up all the way, but we can probably crank up the reflection too.
How do you make the image repeatable?
Oh, you got to get a repeatable image.
Oh, okay.
So these are not seamless textures, or you have to make it. These are not seamless textures I'm using right now. It looks like you do have to do both. So I was curious to see if I had to do both.
Well, three form only comes 4x8, so it's like I just scale it.
You just scale it, yeah.
Scale the image to that size. So
as long,
a couple sizes.
You're definitely gonna need repeatable images, or seamless.
Yeah, if you were trying to do like.
I probably have some. I have some here that I could pull up, but let me just. I want to see what this orange. So notice I had to have it on both for the image, and for the transparency. I was just trying to see if I could do it on one and not the other. Oh, stupid Revit 1.6. Why do you have to type inches in this one dialog but nowhere else?
Yeah, so dumb. The one spot.
So dumb. I don't know what I did with the scale. Hold on. Same thing here. 1 foot 6 inches. There we go. Notice it is reflecting, right? So you can, and the reflectivity's here, right? So you can play with that. You can make it super reflective. And honestly, I know some of these are also like stippled, and you could probably throw a bump on it and see some of that too. If you wanted, if for some reason it was like a stippled one, you could throw a bump map on it and do like a sand, or I'll just do some random concrete one like this.
And
There we
to make the bump, you're just making the image black and white and the
Yeah,
.bm
but what I'm saying
p
is for that,
file.
what I'm thinking the bump is
Yeah,
actually just putting a relief on it.
the
So if
texture.
anything, yeah.
Hmm.
So if anything, if you want it, if it was like a stippled pattern, you might find like a sand, a black and white sand texture. You can even just make like a Photoshop one. But you can see this is actually kind of doing it if you look
Hmm.
closely. But,
Yeah, because you can specify the texture
right,
that you
right,
put on it.
right. I mean, I could crank the bump up, but you know, I'm just trying to show some examples of what you could do with it now. There
The
it is. Woo.
the color, you have it as blue right now.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
That was something I kept going around about. I think it was my Jip finishes I was struggling
Mhm.
with. Like, what does that color do? Like, it seems like it's behind and you never see it.
If you have images, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Okay, covers over if you
Yeah.
have
The image
images.
fade though is where it comes into play on on anything really.
Mhm.
So,
If you
because what you
fade the
can do
image
is
enough, it'll
you
come
can
through.
blend it. You can blend it with other stuff. I don't know on glass it may be a little different, but on like chip, there you go. Yeah. So it'll come through. So it almost acts like a
Okay,
tint there.
yeah.
Okay.
But
I
that's
kept
pretty cool.
I kept like I had a wall, a Jip wall, and I put the paint color in that spot, and then it just kept being white walls, and I was like, what what am I doing?
Yes, yes.
Start going in circles
And
in
that's separate
the
from like
11th
tint.
hour.
It's separate from like tint if you're using. I mean, there's a lot of different things going on there, but
Yeah.
but yeah. So that's how I would do it. That's how I did it 10 years ago, and apparently that still works today. So
Still working. Okay.
uh, what I really wanted to test instead of just sort of showing you the tutorial was I wanted to test to make sure it still works in Enscape because when I was doing it 10 years ago, that was Revit cloud rendering. I think at the time it wasn't even it wasn't even you know uh, Revit native rendering. I think it was cloud rendering, but
Yeah.
it makes sense for Enscape because Enscape, even with the new material editor, it still is in theory, as close as you'll get to what Revit's setup is.
Hmm.
Really, I wanted to put a person there. It's not gonna let me. What's happening here? My
Oh,
offline.
another struggle. I don't know if it was just how my walls are built, but I had some walls that um you could see the end of it, and I
Mhm.
would tell the Jip to wrap, and it still is showing me like the end of it was like showing me the cut of the wall. Like I was seeing the stud.
In the render or in Enscape?
And
That's what you're saying?
Enscape was black. The ends of my walls were black, and I had to like go and paint them. And I did change the wall property to wrap
Hmm.
the Jip layer
And
around, and it didn't.
in in
In Revit in
in
my
floor plan, was it
wall.
looking like it wrapped like in Revit?
Probably not. Probably didn't look at it in that level. It
Well,
just wasn't
that's
right.
sort of my yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking here is just to make sure that if you
Yeah.
go in here and first making sure that it looks like it's wrapping
Uh-huh.
in Revit. So like for example, I'll take this one. I'll make it wrap on one side. Um, so we'll do this Jip. We'll do wrap at ends. What do we exterior? Yeah, there we go.
Okay. What does the
See that?
in the type selector menu, it says does not wrap and wrap. What does that change?
Hold on, I'll show you one second. I just wanted to make sure I'm not a liar here. Yeah, so
Mm.
there you go there.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
got
if you see it wrapping in plan, I don't imagine it wouldn't wrap in Enscape, but so then it's just a matter of
Yeah.
figuring out. This is
The
wrapping in
wraps that
inserts.
inserts. So would that be the wall? Because I also had
In,
like
inserts
I
are
had some
windows and openings. So
doors. So I
doors,
had
yes, doors
some
are inserts. Yes. So
okay.
ends are literally, when the wall stops, or if I was to split this here and move it away from each other, now it's an end,
Yeah.
right? Oops, you see, it was an end. An insert is going to be anything you put in it, including openings. So, if I put a door in this, right? Notice it's not wrapping, and if I put even a a door opening, which I'm not going to load in now, and it would. So yeah, so at the doors, you would need, if you wanted this to be jip and not like a frame or something like that, then you would.
Mhm.
And if you set it from here, uh, it still works, but it's this weird. I think I
Which
kind of know what
side
you're
is it?
asking is why do you have a setting here and a setting there? And I
Yeah.
wish I could answer you as to why, but it's confusing because notice I said interior only for that, but then inside the layers, in theory, you're controlling the layers in here versus the whole wall. So like for example, if I don't want that one to wrap, I don't want that to wrap. See how it's pulling this back?
Mhm.
I actually never I never do it.
Mess.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay.
I don't even ever really. I never do it through here. Is kind of what I'm getting at. I only ever set my wrapping in here. This may change. That value may change based on what you set inside, but because
Mhm.
it's confusing, it is. And you get this weird hierarchy. But
Hey,
I
Jeff,
always set my wrapping in this part of the wall assembly.
Okay.
What's up, Reggie?
just a quick question about
Yep.
this wrapping. Well, yeah. So I get the insert and, at the end of the wall and all that business.
Mhm.
But in the case where you have, like, say, a wall that you want on one end to wrap, like basically, maybe you're building a wing wall of some sort, and
Mhm.
then the other end is running perpendicular into like an existing wall.
Mhm.
What I run into is a lot of times that exists, the new wall that I'm making that wraps at one end. On the other end, if you set it up, it's weird in such a way where I've had it where it doesn't hit the existing wall cleanly. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
almost like it overlaps on this wall. It doesn't connect to the wall. And what I find myself doing is basically saying don't join the wall, so to speak.
But then you get wraps. Is that where you're getting? Is that where we're going with
Yeah,
it?
you get wraps, or it's always like then I end up having to make a specific wall to make the damn thing go. So I
So
just think it doesn't make sense to me. But
yeah. So I think what you're referring to is maybe something like this, give or
that's what
take.
I'd love to see, but I don't see that.
um, so my guess is it has something more to do with the walls themselves and um,
Right.
what your so this is center, right? So if I pull
Yeah,
this
that's what
away,
it usually, like how it's highlighted right there when you see the wall hit that existing
hmm
wall, and it kind of like just cuts out or makes a white space in the existing wall.
hmm
It's either that, or if I fool with the settings, then it's like an overlap type of thing. But it's never like a clean. It's never that. I have not seen that yet.
well, so what's happening here is if I flip this wall back to new, watch what you'll see what's happening, right? If I flip to new and click, see that?
Okay, so it's got to be the
So
same
what you need to
wall.
think of is what the construction of the existing wall is and the construction of the new wall and understand what the hell Revit's doing. Because you can see
Right,
this is what Revit's doing, right? Um,
right,
and so, how that works for you, I guess it depends on the wall, but that's what's happening. So it's taking the layers, the structure, the layers that it
okay.
thinks wants to continue because it's the same wall type, and
I get
it's combining them. If I change this to a different wall type, right? Obviously, now it's going to pull back here. If I flip this
it.
to 5.5, the core and the material, it's doing the work, right?
Right,
It's doing the work, but what you're seeing, right, is you're seeing the graphic override of existing, which is that.
right.
See what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
yeah.
there's depending on what your project is and but that's what Revit's doing. That's why you're seeing this weird shit happen.
Okay.
Um,
So
you know, some of the ways I've seen people deal with that, and obviously it has a lot to do with what you want to do, is you could play with some of the some of the visibility settings and actually let some of these things show, um, as far as existing is concerned. Although, what am I doing? Cut lines, phase existing. Maybe not. this for a second. There we go. You know, stuff like this I've seen where you can make it just a half tone. I'm clearing some of the overrides of the existing, but at least now you're, you know, in reference it's looking a little better. But that's, you know, this is what's happening, right? You notice how this isn't resolving because this is one layer, this is a 2-layer, and Revit doesn't know what the hell to do here, right? So when you know, when you don't see those lines, all you're seeing is Revit's, you know, resolution of it. So I don't think it's a wrapping issue, more of a wall layer assembly thing.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. That just, you know, on the fly, you get it, it's like, I don't want to go chase this down. And I, you know, the simplest way would just to make a similar wall and call it a day. But
either make a similar wall and call it a day, or yeah, I mean, just, you know, there's different ways you could. I wouldn't necessarily agree with this per se, but if, you know, if it was a generic wall that had, you know, your existing wall only had 1 layer, like a generic wall, then it would always clean up flat like you want it to. But that depends on what you want your existing drawings, information, and model to look like, right?
yeah, but you know, I didn't do it like that.
No, I actually wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest model it like the construction of it. But what I'm saying is when it comes to this side of it, you know, that's at least you know why it's doing it. So now it's up to you to figure out how the hell you want to make it work.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I just like, you know, it just dawned on me when you were going through that. I was like, yeah, let me ask that right now. So
Yep, for
that's
sure.
about it with me. I'm good.
Cool.
Got to play with.
All right. Awesome, guys. This is great. Good conversation, good questions. Yeah, I'll post this video ASAP, and yeah, we'll see you on the inside. I guess let me stop this.
Okay.